started to kiss him. First his forehead, his cheeks, his nose, and finally, his mouth. ¿Saben qué es fanfiction? ¿Les parecen bien 47 centímetros? Chicos, hoy les voy a leer fanfictions que yo escribí cuando tenía probablemente menos de 15 años. Bro, esta idea se me vino a la cabeza porque yo estaba limpiando mis correos. Tengo un correo que tengo desde el 2015 y es 2026. No shit, se va a llenar el espacio, ¿saben? En lo que estaba borrando varias cosas, vi que yo misma me mandé un correo y dentro de este correo hay un fanfiction que yo escribí en mi iPod y me lo mandé a la compu. En creative writing, I was the motherfucking beast, ¿ok? Entonces, probablemente todos estos fanfictions van a ser en inglés. Lo voy a traducir, voy a poner aquí de que todos los subtítulos en español, because aquí somos bilingual.
Mi gente latino.
Les presento these fanfictions. Esto me lo mandé el 11 de diciembre del 2015. A peculiar yet marvelous encounter. I feel atrocious, I said Athena, empezando mal con la ortografía. Why? Athena asked me, with a worried look on her face. Because I can't make new friends. I feel like I'm too weird for them or something, I answered, scratching my arm slightly. Hey, what about me? Am I not your best friend for life or something? Athena said to me, you know how in some cartoons the characters are so mad that steam comes out of their ears? Well, this was happening to her. You could tell she was obviously angry. Athena, you don't count. You and I both perfectly know that we are so antisocial we just have each other, and yet you seem to make more friends than I do, I explained as we both started to walk towards our backpacks and put away our books. Maybe it's because I've been in this school longer than you, she contradicted me. Well, I suppose that is a good point, I said while linking arms with Athena and walking outside of the school. We began walking through the rubbish-filled pavement. Cars were honking, dogs were barking, bicycle bells were ringing. Just your average city noises. Every time me and Athena talked, I felt like I could be myself with her. No worries, no responsibilities. Just plain old fun. I mean, after all, she is my best friend for life. Or should I say, my only friend. What the fuck? ¿Por qué era tan angsty a los 13 años? See you later, Mari. Love you, Athena screams to me as she opens her house door with her colorful key set. Bye, I love you too, Athena, I say to her as I continue my daily path home. Sadly, the usual path was blocked, so I had to take a shortcut through the Petalburg woods. I rustled through the bushes, leaves, and occasionally hit my head with low-hanging branches. I got lost in my thoughts' music. Oh, why is that low-key a bar? I got lost in my thoughts' music. Oh, okay. I was suddenly stopped by a loud noise emitting from the bushes. Ortografía again. What are we doing, babe? I slowly approached the mysterious bush when suddenly a wild Pikachu jumped over me. Oh my god, I screamed, fangirling of course. ¿Cómo lo puedo imitar? A ver, espérenme. ¿Pika? No. ¿Pika? The wild Pokemon said. Oh my god. Cute! So cute! I screamed. I run towards it, but since I am indeed the most clumsy person in the entire world, I tripped in the process. Ow! Why am I not surprised? I asked myself. Pikachu! The creature says while tapping my head as if trying to see if I was okay. You saw that epic fail, huh? I blushed while trying to stand up and regain my balance. Pika! It said while lifting its small knobby arms as if asking me to carry it. What? You want me to carry you? I asked. I remained oblivious to the fact that it couldn't answer. Pikachu! It said, so I carried the creature and took it home. Don't worry, I obviously asked people if the creature belonged to anyone, but no one seemed to like it but me. Many people said things like, ew, what is that? Or, why would I want that hideous creature? It's so abnormal. Talk about rude. Dad, I'm home. I need to tell you something, I screamed whilst opening the front door. I'm making dinner. Before you tell me anything, answer me this. Why are you so late? Dad says through the kitchen door. There's a perfectly good explanation for that, which is actually what I want to talk to you about, I say while entering the kitchen room. What explanation exactly? This little guy appeared and, well, you know, I'm obsessed over abnormal things. I gave him a small grin. I urged Pikachu to stand beside me since he was hidden behind my leg. Whoa! He's real? My dad gasps. Yeah, apparently. Isn't he cute? I say while it snuggled my leg. It is rather cute. Wait a darn second. My dad gives me a smug look. What? I say, giving him an innocent look. You want my permission to keep him, don't you? My dad crosses his arms while giving me a sassy look. Oh, Dad, you know me so well, I smile sheepishly. Fine, but I'm not taking care of it, my dad says. Yay, thanks, Dad, I say while hugging. Pikachu also joins in on the hug. The next morning, I went to Athena's house with Pikachu and told her everything that happened yesterday. We obviously fangirled because we both love weird things. Turns out, not everybody liked Pikachu, which is kind of sad, but Pikachu didn't seem to mind. I guess he just cared for those who loved it for who and how it was. I could learn a lesson or two from that adorable creature. I guess you don't need to be loved by everyone in order to be happy. Or maybe even, if you're weird, just embrace it, because it's not strange to be weird. Oh, qué bonito mensaje! Low-key, why did I eat that up? He sido una gran escritora for years, and I've been preaching this shit for years, you guys. But now, I have my Tumblr here. And y'all, I'm so scared. Welcome to my Tumblr, okay? Tengo dos cuentas diferentes. Oh my god. Tengo una que es Ukulele Lester, porque yo tuve una fanny face, and I still do. Arriba, Dan, and Phil. I love those two. Y tengo la de Maresci. I don't remember qué hay en estas cuentas, but we're about to find out. Ya llegué hasta abajo de mis posts de Ukulele Lester, de mi perfil fan de Tumblr. Ukulele Lester. My kinks include Philip Michael Lester, Daniel James Howell, Hickeys, Praise, Phil, Dan. She spoke the truth. I don't know what you want me to say. Like, yes, 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 and yes. Well, yes. Well, yes. Can we please talk about their hips? Like, esos emojis son tan 2016, 2015, qué loco. Phil Lester is gross. He has the most gorgeous legs, but refuses to show them off. Better hips than most models. How dare he? He can make you drown in his eyes, is almost 30 and manages to be the cutest being. Like, how? Hurts walls, chairs, mugs, and lamps by bumping into them. Has to wear glasses and looks absolutely stunning in them. Every time he is within your eyesight, you can't help but stare in awe. Sticks his fucking tongue out when he laughs, hides his face when he smiles or laughs. Tries to be a cool Daz, but fails. I think cool dad is lo que quería escribir. His giggle can resuscitate Jesus, yet he doesn't like giggling. Maresci, if you knew that this man is so incredibly homosexual, stab me. And it's them being cute. I took that screenshot, and it has no reblogs and no likes. Hey, that's life in Tumblr. Pin off touch counter. Pin off the first one, 11. Pin off 2, 9. Pin off 3, 10. Pin off 4, 2. Esa era su era de ser homofóbicos. Por eso solo se tocaron 2 veces. Fun fact. Pin off 5, 7. Pin off 6, 11. Pin off 7, 17. Pin off 8, 20. Pin off 8? Pin off 8 fue en el 2000. ¿Qué año? ¿Qué? ¿En qué año fue este? Pin off 8 fue en el 2016? ¿Cuándo fue Pin off 10? ¿En el 2018? That's crazy. Anyway. Oh, this post was flagged because somewhere in your reblog there might be explicit content. Oh, son unos brazos. Por eso quebraste Tumblr, porque hiciste flag a cosas que nada que ver. Oh, are you gonna flag this? Are you gonna flag my guns? Son unos ridículos. Flaguen cosas que de verdad need flagging. Creo que de aquí en adelante son puros reblogs, porque muy rara vez escribía mis propios posts. Pero let me tell you something, all my reblogs were so fun back then. And I remember being so proud of my own blog. Llegué hasta abajo de mi blog personal de Maresol. Mi primer post. Esto fue en el 24 de mayo del 2015 en Tumblr. Duh, amazing Phil looks so adorable in this picture. Dan is not on fire. You look nice. Now why did I roast Dan? El screenshot parece que lo tomé desde una tostadora. ¿Qué pedo? Okay, hard eyes. Hashtag Ermengerd. Sin comentarios. My kokoro, it's melting. And it's a screenshot of pin of one. Hey, you know what? So real. That is so real, Reina. Okay, so there's this gif. This was the most fun I've ever had. Oh, Phil smiled before he majestically embraced Dan. Hashtag fan is real. My life, ... Me watches Dan and Phil video before class. Friend, what are you watching? Me, Dan and Phil, smiles. Friend, attempts to insult me but fails. They are so gay. Me, I wish. Friend, looks at me with shame and walks away. Girl, if you knew, if only you knew. Guess what? Tengo algo que contarte, reina. Si tan solo supieras, mi reina, que sí son extremadamente joto. Solo te tienes que esperar a que sea el 2019-2020. La Maresci de 13 años was right the whole time. She knew that they were gay and she knew that they were together. Pero did you bitches listen to her? No. Le decían, Maresci, estás loca. Maresci, no le sabes. I was right the whole time. If I had a nickel por cada vez que mis ships de YouTube se hicieron reales, tendría 2 nickels. El primero siendo Dan and Phil y el segundo siendo Courtney and Shane the Smosh. Is it just me or ... Sometimes I'm in the car listening to music with my headphones and I just close my eyes and imagine myself making a movie with the song. I don't know why. Reina, eres tan real. No sé por qué le puse hashtag fan. ¿Qué tiene que ver fan con la música? Okay, so imagine this. Dan and Phil published their book and at the very end of it, it says, oh yeah, by the way, I'm bi, Dan. And I'm gay, Phil. And fan is real. Now you know. I would be like, I freaking knew it since 2009. Takes a deep breath. I can now die in peace. Maresci sabía cosas, pero ustedes no la creían, perros. Oh God. Okay, so in Phil is Not on Fire 1, Phil says, I kind of look like Voldemort, and Dan says, I would bang Voldemort. Oh my God. Okay, so picture this. Dan and Phil are about to finish recording a collab with each other when suddenly, Dan. Okay, well, that's all the time we have for today, but before we go, Phil? Yeah? Dan grabs Phil by the shoulders and kisses him on the lips. Phil, blushing. Oh, Dan, what was that for? I love you, Phil. Me too. And bam, the video ends. If this ever happened, I would be so proud of Dan, accepting who he is and who he loves. Even if he is gay, straight, or bi, all the fan will love him. At Dan is Not on Fire, at Amazing Phil. ¿Por qué tenía la audacia de taguearlos? Probablemente muchas de las cosas que reblogueé se fueron porque Tumblr hizo su cosa bien locochona y dijo, oh, everything that is not PG-13, get the fuck out of my page. Pero no se preocupen porque tengo más contenido para ustedes. Tengo un fanfiction que escribí en fanfiction.net. Yo no escribí fanfiction en AO3 ni en Wattpad. Estaba a punto de, pero no lo hice. Pero consumía mucho fanfiction. Donde sí escribí un fanfiction fue en fanfic.net y creo que lo tengo aquí. So let me look it up and I'm gonna read it for you, okay? Ok, el layout de fanfiction.net está horrible, pero está horrible desde que lo conozco. So, ok, vamos a ver si encuentro el fanfiction. Yo sé que está aquí. Cualquier cosa, creo que le tomé screenshot y lo tengo en mi celular, pero vamos a ver si lo podemos encontrar aquí directo en mi cuenta. So let's go to my profile. Oh my God. Hiya, I'm Maresci, or more commonly known as Maresol. I'm just a random teenager who lives in her fantasy world via her fanfiction writing skills. Or should I say, fanfiction? Am I right? No? Okay. But where are my Manage stories? Oh, here it is. Tickles and Cuddles, a Maresci fanfic. Oh my god. A super fluffy fanfiction where Dan and Phil have the cutest time of their life. Warning, if you're a fan of fluff, you will fangirl. Finally, I'm done, Phil said, setting down his last box. He wiped the sweat dripping down his forehead and walked over to Dan's room. You done yet? Phil said, leaning on the side of Dan's door. Ugh, no, I'm missing like 10 more boxes. Dan groaned, walking over to Phil and resting his face on his shoulder. Aw, you're so cute when you're frustrated, Phil said, putting his thumb over Dan's chin and moved him ever so slightly to kiss his forehead. Shut up, you know you can be a real pain in the fluff, right? Dan said, walking back with a small grin. Did you forget that I'm the living embodiment of fluff and sunshine? Phil said, putting his arms around Dan's waist. Yeah, Dan said, intertwining his fingers with Phil's. Anyways, need any help with the boxes? Phil said, taking a small step out the door. Nah, I'm good. Just don't distract me with your cuteness, okay? Dan winked. I promise nothing. Phil giggled and walked over to the kitchen. After a couple minutes, Dan went to the kitchen and saw Phil putting away some dishes and listening to Muse with his headphones. Phil? Dan whispered. There was no answer. Oh, well, if he doesn't hear me, maybe I can surprise tickle him, Dan said to himself. He slowly walked over to Phil's blind side and reached his arms out. Phil swayed to the melodious sound of his favorite band, not knowing what Dan was about to do. Dan finally put his fingers around Phil's ribs and started tickling him, not too hard, as it would hurt him. Dan, don't! It tickles, haha. Phil laughed. Dan smiled. He loved seeing Phil smile. Even if he was always smiling, it made him feel all warm and fuzzy. He was glad he had a best friend like him. Phil's leg slowly gave out and the two boys fell on the floor. Dan was on top of Phil, who was still laughing. Do you give up? Dan said, tickling him harder. Yes, I do, Phil laughed. Okay, I'll stop, Dan said, sitting on top of Phil's pelvis. Phil breathed heavily, yet he still managed to smile. I hate you, Phil giggled. Dan chuckled as he saw Phil covering his blushing cheeks. He didn't know what came over him, but suddenly Dan grabbed Phil's hands and pinned him down to the floor and started to kiss him. First his forehead, his cheeks, his nose, and finally his mouth. The two boys breathed heavily into the kiss. Dan's hand moved away from Phil's and onto Phil's hair. Phil slowly reached out to Dan's waist and caressed the younger boy's body. Dan moaned into Phil's lips, causing Phil to moan as well. The two boys pulled away in exhaust, both breathing heavily. What was that for? Phil smirked, sitting upright. Dan was still in his pelvis. Do I need a reason to kiss my lion? Oh, Dios mío! Dan put his arms around Phil's neck. No, it's just weird and spontaneous coming from you. Phil blushed and put his arms around Dan's waist once more. I know. Dan blushed. Hey Dan, Phil said. What? Dan asked. Don't look at me in a weird way, but... Phil's blush started to appear. Yeah? Dan smiled in a rather excited way. Oh, exited way, sorry. Bad grammar again. Can we continue this in a comfier spot? Hell yeah, Dan smiled. Phil stood up first. Dan extended a hand as if asking Phil to help him get up, but Phil decided to carry Dan in his arms, just to set the mood. Dan nuzzled his face against Phil's neck, sending chills of pleasure all throughout Phil's back. The older boy finally reached his bedroom and lunged his soulmate to his checkered bed. The two boys kissed passionately and enjoyed themselves until the bitter end. Phil cuddled up next to Dan and kissed his head. Dan could feel butterflies in his stomach. He always wondered how Phil managed to make him feel that way. Hey Dan, Phil whispered into Dan's ear. Yeah, Phil? Dan whispered. I love you, Phil yawned. I love you more. Dork. Dan giggled. What a perfect end to the perfect day, Dan thought. And with that, the two went to sleep in each other's arms. The end. Aww. Beautiful, wonderful, amazing. ¿Les gustó? Déjenme saber si les gustó. Guys, las fangirls hacemos que el mundo gire. ¿Qué sería de este mundo sin las fangirls? Califiquen mis fanfictions del 1 al 10. Mi favorito fue el de Pikachu porque tiene un mensaje muy bonito al final. Tienen suerte de que no escribí fanfictions así bien... porque fácil lo pude haber hecho. Pero no lo hice por respeto a Dan and Phil. That's all. Espero que lo hayan disfrutado. Y si esto les inspira a ver sus antecedentes online y su digital footprint, please let me know. Si tienen fanfictions que ustedes han escrito, neta déjenmelo saber. Tal vez a la próxima haré un video leyendo mi fanfiction favorito, porque tengo ahí una lista de fanfictions que me han gustado bastante, pero I don't know, ya veremos. Anyways, arriba Dan and Phil. Bye.